Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm Comic-Con welcome to Mr. Patton Oswalt.
Oh. Hello, sweaty shut-ins. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming out to the 20th anniversary of Mystery Science Theater 3000. Oh my God. I'm not going to go into too much now about what this show means to me and how much I loved it and how happy I was to discover it living back when I was in the suburbs of Virginia. So what I'm going to do is, here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring everyone up at once, and they're all going to sit down, and I'm going to let them each introduce themselves. So ladies and gentlemen, give a very sweaty, very pasty San Diego Comic-Con welcome to the creators and cast of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
It's like the Last Supper here.
Yeah.
Tough crowd.
I brought you all here because one of you is a murderer. I'm going to let each of you introduce yourselves and hold your applause for me at the end. I will reintroduce myself. So let's go from down there. Let's meet everyone. Say hi.
That's you, Missy.
Well, he can't talk. Oh my gosh. Hi, I'm Bridget Jones Nelson.
Paul Chaplin. Mi nombre es Bill Corbett.
I'm J. Elvis Weinstein.
Mary Jo Peel.
Frank Conniff. Kevin Murphy.
Michael J. Nelson.
Grace Ballou. Joel Hudson.
Jim Mallon.
Patton Oswalt from King of Queens. Thank you. I know, it's pretty amazing, and you're welcome. I have so many questions for these guys, and I have some questions that were actually submitted. This first one is from Andrea Romano. Sorry, they left all these name tags up here, so hang on.
I loved her on One Day at a Time.
Yeah. Does anybody want Diedrich Bader's name? Just to... Oh, watch. Here comes Nerd War. Oh! You know what?
She's
Sports
bleeding.
is not the big thing in this room.
That missed catch is why he's here. I want to ask you guys, and I'm gonna just start kind of sending you questions generally, and then whoever it applies to, please jump in. One thing, I'm going to start off kind of...
Could you do it in the voice of Ratatouille?
Yes, definitely.
Cool.
Okay, sure. So here's what I want to know there, Squire. That's the different version that we did that'll come out later. Criterion's putting that one out. It was a very different ending. I give the plague to Paris. It's pretty dark. David Fincher originally wrote Ratatouille, right? This show kind of was a pre-internet model in that, you guys, it was the same structure as YouTube, MySpace, and Facebook in terms of all of you guys passing around tapes and communicating with each other before there was an internet to say, oh, did you see this show? Did you catch that reference? That's so amazing. And then it just sort of built that way. And then when the internet kind of came along, it just fell in naturally. Do you think that the show would have developed differently, either better or worse, if the internet had been around and as in society when you guys started the show? Or was it good that it was all word of mouth for a while?
I think we would have done more porn.
All right, yeah.
Because we modeled the show after the porn industry, and that's what circulating the tapes was all about.
Yeah, let's cut his mic right now. I mean, were you guys aware, how aware were you that the show was starting to catch on outside of Minneapolis? Because you started off on Minneapolis cable access, basically.
Yeah, UHF.
on UHF. And
It was
then
a real station, yeah.
yeah.
The thing is that it's not even a question of there was no internet. It was almost like there was no cable TV either, because when the show was first on, none of us knew anybody who had the Comedy Channel and who watched it. So it was just a rumor that we were on TV, you know, even though we were making a TV show.
Our checks were a rumor as well.
What was your first indication that, oh, this thing is growing beyond what we thought it was going to be? Like, what was the first idea?
When we were at TV 23, Jim Mallon, right here, he put a answering machine on. We got a dedicated phone line, and we ran a little chyron at the bottom of the screen that said, call us, and people filled up the answering machine the first night.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then is that when you took it to the Comedy Channel or Comedy Central, or you started thinking, oh, we can take this?
Well, then we started a fan club and got about 1,000 people, and so after we did like 22 shows, we cut together like a 4-minute cell tape, and that's what we went with.
What, you know, the original fan club, were there membership cards or fan club cards? Does anyone here have an original, like from the old school original ones? Oh wow.
There's a guy in the second row who knows a lot about the show. He should be up there.
I think he said that they had newsletters, and we used to send out newsletters, yes. Trace was the one who drew the original fan club cards, as a matter of fact. They were beautiful.
Wow.
We were giving out, we had the newsletter, and then
There's one in the front row.
She has
Hey, there you go.
Wow. Laminated. Let me see that.
outstanding.
Oh my goodness.
Let's make it tinier so no one can
Yeah. Look at that. Wow. And there's
She's just standing there going, give it back. Give it back. Don't bend it.
It's laminated.
She's thinking, if I can get Frank Conniff to lick it, I'll win the scavenger hunt.
Oh, no, he did. It's on there.
It's not that hard to do with most things, but
Take us through a typical prepping an episode, finding a movie that you were going to rip apart.
At KTMA?
At KTMA, how did that?
Well, in the beginning, it was almost any movie in the library, because KTMA had no money and had purchased the cheapest film packages possible, which dovetailed really nicely with Joel's concept. So it was basically pick any movie out of the library, and we were in pretty good shape.
And you just had tons of garbage to work with, like movies that you couldn't
Nothing
believe.
but garbage, as a matter of fact.
Oh, really?
It was a low-budget TV channel, and there was nothing but garbage. You know, a lot of Lee Van Cleef movies.
Well, okay, well that's my second question. Was there ever a movie you started to sit down and watch and thought, okay, this is going to be great, and then you realized, oh, this is actually a hidden gem. This is pretty good.
Not at KTMA.
Not at KTMA. Okay, then my second question is, was there ever a movie that was so bad, so horrifying that you're like, this would be, we can't even make fun of this. This would be cruel.
Manos, the Hands of Fate.
Well, that.
I still can't go to sleep with the lights on or off.
But what I'm asking is, have you guys ever seen and yet never spoken of something worse than Manos that you've all like maybe sworn yourself to?
Child Bride.
Child Bride.
oh, that wasn't so bad. No.
It was Appalachian kiddie porn. It was pretty creepy.
And KTMA had it in their library, or?
This was a screener we got sent later
But it
on.
was from the
boy.
30s, make
It was.
that clear.
That's true. It was, yeah. It's old-fashioned Appalachian kiddie porn.
Wow. So everyone,
Wholesome porn.
Family porn.
I'll only watch kiddie porn in black and white. I'm sorry. I'm old-fashioned.
Doesn't make me a
I
bad
think
person.
the movie Side Hackers, yeah, thank you. The thing that was weird about Side Hackers is we watched it, just the beginning of it, and we really thought it was great, and then we encountered a rape scene, and we had to cut it out, because we
Wow.
couldn't make that funny.
I don't know why I'm giggling at you describing a rape scene. That's horrible. But keep in mind, Child Bride is the movie that made the Misties blink. So go try to find it and see if you can maybe. You won't find it. Oh, you won't find it? Okay. Was it printed on parchment or something? You gotta like hold it up to a lantern? Is that how?
It was a wax cylinder.
Wow, okay. So then, getting what you mentioned Manos, The Hands of Fate, which that Manos, The Hands of Fate is if you've seen it with their treatment, it's unwatchable any other way. And if you see it with their treatment and then you watch it just as itself, you'll hear their voices in your head, and that's what gets you through it. I think that one was one of the only episodes where you guys actually despaired and were going to just give up. And even, I remember even TV's Frank and Dr. Forrester, didn't you apologize on the air? Like, even you guys were like, this is way too evil for us.
We crossed the line.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there was one movie we did, and I actually forget which one it was. I forget the title, but it was just, it was pieced together clips from other movies. And
Monster A Go-Go, right?
Monster A Go-Go. At the end, there was no monster. Oh, thank you. You know, and that was the one that I think we really, in the writing room, was like, we can't write this. It's impossible. That was like the worst one I ever did.
It's a huge jip. So, and then how did it feel later with movies like Manos, The Hands of Fate, and Mitchell, when you realize you actually, I mean, you really gave those movies and Joe Don Baker kind of a whole second life because of your treatment.
He doesn't appreciate it, though. No. He really doesn't.
You're assuming he had a first life, too.
Well, wow, this is...
Joe Don's family.
Boy, yeah. Have there ever been, like, huge, big-budget Hollywood releases, maybe even Oscar winners, that you all have secretly wanted to run through the Mystery Science ringer, that even though they're universally beloved movies, that you guys think, oh, this is actually kind of horrible. This actually should be ripped.
Schindler's List.
Overrated.
Well, they make them every day. You see, so it's like a candy store. You just pick one from.
Well, I remember we did the little clip of Titanic for one of our specials, and that had us licking our chops. And I think it was Kevin. There was a glory shot of the captain looking over the ship, and Tom Servo said, "I'm gonna sink this bitch."
Wow. Well, how did each of you develop your characters, like Dr. Forrester, TV's Frank, and then the robots? I want to know where did those characters come from? Were those amalgamations of people that you knew, or where did they come from?
Hey, let me tell you the beginning of the wonderful story of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
No, I want to hear about the robots. I don't care. No, Joel, go ahead, please.
The robots actually, I pulled an all-nighter before we did the pilot and made the robots, and there was Crow and there was Gypsy, and then I made the last one I made was kind of a crappy one called Beeper, which was supposed to be a baby robot. And I was in a writing group with Trace and Josh, and I asked them to come and do the puppets. And there was this pile of puppets, and Trace grabbed Crow, and Josh was this really ambitious, 16-year-old kid, and he took 2 puppets. He took Gypsy and he took Beeper. But everything was working when we did the pilot, but Beeper obviously wasn't, so I just went and put a gumball machine on Beeper's head, and he became Tom Servo.
Wow.
So, and then, Josh, tell him about, you kind of had a metamorphosis with Tom Servo.
Well, it started as just Servo, and then we were messing around with the voice of it, and that's when I came up with this sort of really kind of slimy AM DJ character, Tom Servo, in the morning. And it was kind of a mix of, did you ever see the WKRP episode where Johnny Fever turns into Riptide, the disco? There's a lot of Riptide in my Tom Servo.
Wow.
And there was a lot of local weatherman Barry Zavan as well in Tom Servo. So.
Wow. And then where did Crow come from? Where did
Crow started out kind of a staccato kind of voice that I eventually found was really difficult to riff in.
Uh-huh.
So I was...
Let's do a little bit. Let's do a scene structure, and you're the original Crow, and I walk in as Joel Robinson.
Hi, Joel Robinson.
See?
Pure improv, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow,
Pure, unadulterated improv.
just eerie.
That was scripted.
Wow.
And then it just kind of my own shrill voice when I get excited and have to pee. So, as you can hear now.
The other thing I think was that when we were originally doing it, Trace and I were playing both a scientist and a robot, and so like my robot was a low voice, so I picked a really high voice for my scientist, and Trace kind of went the opposite way, where Forrester had a very low voice and Crow became much more nasal, so it wouldn't be so obvious that we were the same guys doing the voices.
They figured it out.
And then tell us
It
about...
was the credits that did it.
Tell us about Gypsy. Where did Gypsy come from?
Gypsy was the female presence on the Satellite of Love. And,
She was?
Sadly.
And I don't know, the writers really didn't write a lot for Gypsy. She said "my stars" an awful lot. That seemed to be a big part. But then over time, she evolved. I mean, at first it was, the backstory was she was running all the higher functions of the ship. And therefore didn't have the brain capacity for more than my stars. But later on, she was able to get to the point where she actually had a one-woman show, Gypsy Rose Me. And if this was vodka, I'd sing a verse of it, but not tonight.
Yeah, she was kind of like the mom on the. She would kind of try to, keep the other robots in control, which was sort of sweet.
Yeah.
She was the worrywart.
And it was a really big, heavy puppet too. I mean,
did one guy control it, or was it like full of midgets, or how was it? Was one of those LucasArts kind of things where we put Kenny Baker in the tail and call it a day?
the first one was Josh ran it for a while, and how long? I don't know. I don't remember how long you did Gypsy.
I did it for the KTMA shows, but
yeah.
my character was pretty much just retarded dragon.
Which was her original name.
And then,
hey, Josh, didn't you do Gypsy as an inhale? You inhaled when she spoke?
I did. It was very much like this. He talks like this.
And then Josh got his cleft palate fixed, and suddenly the voice wasn't there anymore.
and when we went to, and actually got paid to do it at Comedy Channel, that's when we were able to go back in and rebuild them. If you notice, they're really different.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of could buy the nice Testors paint. I got it at Cub Hobby there in Burnsville. And Trace kind of,
Of course, thank you.
We're being riffed. Oh my God.
It's so weird. I don't know how to behave when people yell at me. It's weird. But anyway, we kind of upgraded the robots then, and that's when Jim took over, and he made a real kick-ass rig for Gypsy, that's for sure.
Oh, really?
Sweet deal,
Tell him about it, Jim.
Well, if you've ever been in a marching band, how many people have been in marching bands and played the drums?
Thought so.
Wow,
Loser.
95% of you?
So a drum rig, if you know that, and then a windsurfer universal joint into the PVC, which was her spine.
Nice.
And all the weight was transferred to my shoulders.
And then did you ever say, did you ever come home at the end of the day and go, I'm really tired. I was riding the Gypsy all day, man. I've just been riding the Gypsy, man. I'm wrung out, baby. I had to sit in the beanbag chair and put on Roxy Music's Avalon. And now, Mary Jo Pehl as a frightening supervillain. You had a...
Oh, Patton, you
had a very hard act to follow with Dr. Clayton Forrester. Very unhinged. I think you're the only villain with a evil stripe through both your hair and beard.
That's where the bolt came through.
Duh. That's nice.
There was another white mark.
Wow. Oh, dear God. Yes. And that's when you all became men. So, Mary Jo, how did you out evil? How did you plan to out evil Dr. Clayton Forrester? How are you going to do that? Where did your character come from?
It's an extrapolated, I want to emphasize the word extrapolated version of my mother. She's...
Oh, Here we go.
Okay.
Here it
I
comes.
have mother issues, and I'm so glad
Do you
I have
wanna
this
lie down, Mary
opportunity
Jo?
to talk about it. No, she's just she can be really crusty, and I just one-upped her, and it was just kind of her take on the world. Just everything, the other shoe is always going to drop, and she's going to outdo you before she gets did. So.
Speaking as a gigolo, I'd like to meet your mother.
Wow.
My new stepfather, Paul.
I was afraid things wouldn't get ugly. Now, have you guys ever heard from a director of one of the films that you kind of put through the ringer? Were you ever contacted, or
Our
maybe
fil-
one of
wait,
the actors?
Wait,
or?
our films had directors?
Have any of you ever met Joe Don Baker? Perhaps run into him.
Haven't met him.
I don't know if that's, maybe someone on the panel can tell me, is that an urban legend that he threatened us?
We brought it up once we were doing a press conference, and we brought it up, so every reporter called him. So he got 60 calls in a row, like, do you really hate the guys from Mystery Science? And finally, at call 32, he's like, yes, die, I hate them. So it's actually in quotes in some newspaper. He does, in fact, want to kick our ass.
I say bring it on, sweet cheeks. Yeah, you're gonna pull back to swing, spill your drink, and trip over your arm candy. I know you, Joe Don.
And
wow.
Joel.
Just make sure he has servo clarity when he comes.
Didn't Miles O'Keefe call you guys?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Miles O'Keefe, but what was that movie? Do you remember?
That was Ator of the Fighting Eagle.
Yeah.
And
He loved what we did.
Yeah, he invited us to come party in Malibu.
He was on his fifth Budweiser by the pool at 10 a.m. and he's like, I love that thing, man.
You could smell the red bud through the telephone.
Hey, bring those puppets, man. I got a fun dungeon that they would fit perfectly.
He just
in
thought
there.
they'd make a good bong, I think.
Now, the Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie, that was really amazing and ballsy to take a This Island Earth, which I'm sure a lot of people here would say, excuse me, I consider that a classic. I don't know why you would pee. So the fact that, how did you, were there other movies that you had in mind? How did you narrow that one down? What was that process like?
It's okay if you like it, Pat. You can tell us.
I'm just saying there's certain parts that are kind of
You liked Brack, didn't you?
I thought that the mutant alien is pretty... Excuse me, I have something in my eye.
No, it wasn't it. I mean, the number one criteria was just it had to be a color film, and they just didn't have much in their library, as I recall. But we only found, I had heard of the movie, but I only found out once it was released because the press loved that movie. And the first question they ever asked us when we did all the press for the film was, why did you attack that? And then I said, well, when was the last time you saw it? When I was 6. So just watch it again and you'll.
Wow.
It seemed perfect because it was big and dumb. And it was widescreen and it had nice color and it had aliens in suits and huge forehead butts with white hair. I mean, how.
Hey, I'm sitting right here.
But you're not wearing a suit, Frank. That's the only.
Here's one of my nerdy questions. In a corporate war between fictional evil corporations, who do you think would win? Would it be Gizmonics? Would it be Mr. Show's Globochem? Would it be Charles Montgomery Burns Limited? Or the Parallax Corporation? How would Gizmonics... Did you guys ever sit down and talk about what the background of Gizmonics is, or what their history, or because even that was kind of a character. Just the over-pervading evil of Deep 13 was very much...
We just knew that it was shaped like a G.
The rest fell into place.
Wow. Next question. Wow. Soak it up, you bitch. Were you guys ever approached by like someone to do like? Did anyone ever want you to? Has a big director ever approached you guys with a movie that he or she had coming out that they knew was going to stink, and like you guys should? Because I've Weird Al Yankovic has said whenever he's met a lot of recording artists, are like, oh, you should really rip apart this thing I'm going to do. I know it's going to suck, and they want him to already rip it apart. Has that anything like that ever happened or?
There was the movie Time Chasers we did that was from this scrappy little group of people who decided they lived in Rutland, Vermont, and they decided to make a movie, and they all got together when we had finally riffed their movie, and I think many of them walked away sad and crying after we got to the end.
One of them wanted to be on the show, as I recall. Remember the pink guy? The guy in the pink jacket?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Pink Man wanted to be on the show.
But the last line we had in the movie was, "Go to hell, citizens of Rutland, Vermont." So.
We took it to him.
Wow. But now, some of the movies, like Manos, The Hands of Fate, owes its success directly to your show. It would not even exist if it wasn't for,
And yet, do we get a Christmas card from Manos?
No.
That seems like of all the films we did, that's kind of the one that we brought to the world in a big way. That otherwise, and I also like to think that when people talk about directors who made bad movies like Ed Wood, I like to think that we contributed to the fact that maybe Coleman Francis's name comes up.
Oh yeah. Oh boy.
An artist.
Who sang Night Train to Mundo Fini? Who did that riff? That was amazing. Who did that?
That was John Carradine sang that.
No, but like on the show, because one of the riffs was, "Excuse me, is this the Night Train to Mundo Fini?" Oh, good Lord.
That was Trace, as a matter of fact.
Was it?
It was? Quick, check the internet.
Yeah. Now, getting back to the internet, the whole, it really struck me that the way that you guys
I don't
riff.
think this is an internet crowd, Pat.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Is this all like ham radio and like crystal radio hobbyists and stuff like that? Wow. Okay, carrier pigeons, nice.
Okay, go. I'm twittering.
Okay, so the back and forth that you guys would do watching these awful movies was sort of a precursor to, would you put that away? Everyone knows your cell phone is full of candy and gum. Now, but the way that you guys would go back and forth in these movies is very much how internet chats and comment boards now go. It's the same back and forth. You know, someone riffs, someone tries to top it, someone tries to then top it. How did you guys know when to stop the riff? Was it totally for like the length of the scene, we got to get off the riff now, or would there sometimes be like, oh, we got to? Were there times when you had 5 amazing jokes and you only had like room for 2? So which ones do you lose?
A lot of times there were like a lot of funny jokes for one line, and then it was just kind of, I guess, a consensus like of what people thought was the funniest one.
Yeah, we trimmed a lot. But.
It was also what would fit. It was kind of a rule that you couldn't change the dialogue. It had to actually fit.
Right.
You had to make it work that way too.
One rule of thumb I always went, whatever reference is the most obscure should go into the show.
Oh, that's for sure.
Anything that's
I also think that sometimes when we had a big ball of ideas, it would become a sketch. You know, if we really had a lot there, we'd just put a card up to write a sketch about.
Is that where the song "Hike Your Pants Up" came from, Daddy-O? Is that?
Dick Contino.
I saw a screening of that movie that James Elroy presented because he was doing a short story, Dick Contino, and it was after I saw it on your show, and again, the song "Hike Your Pants Up" just was going through my head, and I'm sitting there laughing my ass off 2 rows in front of James Elroy, and he's like, this was a movie from my childhood. It's like, but the pants are up. It's pathetic. It's truly pathetic. Yeah, speaking of obscure references, that's another thing, too, about how reference-dense the show is. There are a million entryways for anyone experiencing the show for the first time. Maybe there's 5 minutes where you're watching going, I don't know what, and then one of you guys will say something that will make a viewer go, I can't believe they just reference that, and then someone else, like there's I forget what episode it is, but someone says, "Oh my God, they're arresting Harlan Ellison," which in the nerd core people go, "Oh my God."
Mitchell, I think.
Was it on Mitchell?
Yeah, I think so.
And then Joel said, "Good." So not only is there something for the Harlan Ellison fans, and there's also some for the people that aren't his fans, but there's just so many different. Again, it's like an internet chat room. That you guys invented it, man.
Yeah, we invented the internet.
You did. You really did.
Pretty much.
invented it.
Hey, I was just going to say, I mean, one of the big things is we never got notes from Comedy Channel. I mean, basically, when we started, they were so busy getting their network up and running, we never got notes. The only note we got from an executive was, we can't see the silhouette on a black and white movie, so make it green. And we did for like 2 shows. I don't know which shows that is. And then we figured out, you can blue the black and white movie, and then our black silhouette would pop.
Completist nerds, what are the 2 green silhouette shows? Anyone?
Yeah, he's right.
Crawling Hand.
Oh, man.
Maybe it was one?
Was there a Crawling Hand and a Crawling Eye movie?
Yeah.
Wow. It's like they're on their way to making a body. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Crawling tongue, crawling spleen, crawling aisles of Langerhans.
Now, I remember seeing a special about the show when Tom Shales of the Washington Post called it the masterpiece theater of Comedy Central. That was one of his reviews, and so they did a special about the show. And they were talking about the fan mail from female fans that Joel and I suspect Mike also started to get. Were you like,
what the? Hey, come on!
Were there like, was there like a weird kind of bad movie love cult building around you guys? Don't judge me with your eyes. Did that? I know that happened.
Hello.
I was very popular with elderly men. I think that's what it is.
He was married to Sam Walton for a while.
Wow.
He was so tender.
By the way, this is such a personal thing, but I was watching the show one night. I was on the road working a comedy club with a comedian from Minneapolis, and there was you were making fun of some caveman movie, and you actually referenced a Minneapolis open micer, and this guy was like, I can't believe they just said his name on national. What was the guy's name?
Gomez?
Was it Dwayne Beer?
Gomez O'Prey? We used to.
Gomez.
We mentioned Gomez, yeah.
Now Gomez was a guy that was kind of in your circle, or at least you knew of him, and put him into the show.
That was our bid, to get a wider audience. We kind of didn't get that. And you know what? If we reference some guy we know, that's going to put us right over the top.
Not only any guy we know, a really obscure guy we know.
Yeah.
Actually, before I was even on the show, I remember I went over to Mike and Bridget's house, and Mike was already on the show, and you played me a show from the first season, and there was a reference, and it's to Gomez O'Prey, and I'd never seen anything funnier in my life. It was like a transformative moment.
Tears of joy from Frank.
Yeah.
It was so delightful.
Wow. Now the writers, how did you? You had to obviously keep Joel, Mike, the robots, like the different voices in your head to write for, or did you just generate as many jokes as you could and see where they would fit?
Yeah, when the movie was playing, we would just yell out whatever came into our head. I mean, I don't would speak for everyone, but I think it wasn't a question while you were writing, riffing on the movie that you were thinking this would be this character or this character. That kind of came later in the process when you would actually take the script and assign the lines, and then you'd say, oh, this is a really funny line, and Crow, it'd be great for Crow. That kind of came afterwards.
Right.
We'd also do every third line, like I'd get every third line, so it's kind of random sometimes.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Well, what was the movie that caused the biggest amount of fights in terms of some of you saying, this is awful, it won't work, and other people going, this is the funniest thing we've ever done? Was there ever a movie that you really kind of drew a line on and people had to really push it to get it on, or?
Well, I used to, my job for a while was to screen the movies and to pick them, or I wouldn't pick them, I would say, oh, this one I should show to everybody, and then everyone would decide, and there were a few that I said, "Oh man, we got to do this," and they were like, "Frank, you're crazy. We're not doing that." One of them I remember that I was really fond of was Bela Lugosi meets the Brooklyn Gorilla.
Oh yeah.
I was a huge advocate of it. I was asked to leave the building.
Yeah, that would have been hard to make fun of because it's a Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin ripoff team in the movie.
Right.
And so it's like the movie is already kind of.
I know, though. That's the thing,
itself.
Tom. That comedies we did a couple of, like Catalina Caper was a comedy.
Oh yeah.
But that was an exception. Most of the time, a movie that's trying to be funny and just making fun of the fact that it's trying to be funny and not funny is usually. I don't know if you can sustain that.
Yeah, you wind up saying variations on, that's not funny,
Yeah.
you know.
And I've heard that often
Sincerity.
enough in my life. So.
What were some of the nicest kind of feedback you've ever gotten from the show that made you really go, oh, this is.
I think Joe Don Baker threatening to kill us was probably the best feedback we ever got.
We got a letter from one fellow who insisted that he was in a coma and his family put the show on in the hospital while he was in the coma, and that the show brought him out of the coma.
Michael Bay was his name.
And look where it got us.
If you take a DVD of Mystery Science Theater and rub it against a wound, it'll actually
I
start to
didn't know
heal.
that's weird.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's amazing. And then where did you guys find all those little short films that you would put? Now, were they also part of the cam?
Rick Pralinger.
Rick Pralinger.
Yeah.
Shout out to Rick Pralinger. He's
Yeah.
collected these things in the Ephemeral Films collection for about 20 years.
Uh-huh.
And now it's part of the National Archives and in the Smithsonian, this stuff. And he has
Partially because of you.
Perhaps he
Yeah.
certainly enjoyed what we did with them and was happy. And he would send us, he'd say, "This isn't weird enough, I'll send you something weirder." And
Yeah, he's
so-
kind of an evangelical about those preserving those old shorts, especially the educational ones.
Yes, Spring Fever was. If you, I almost get the feeling when I saw that you could almost hear you guys smacking your lips like we are going to rip the. And I almost feel like David Lynch is watching that going, I should have done. Oh man, that is really creepy. Now, were there any questions you wanted me to ask that I didn't ask, or was I pretty amazing? Was that pretty good, or?
You did good.
Thank you guys so much for coming out and being a part of it. Let's give a big round of applause to all the Mystery Science Theater 3000 cast and crew.